Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am Ben and I am joined by Brian, and I am back after multiple weeks off to talk about episode 5 of Survivor 44. I told the guys that I was on a little bit of a break. I was going to wait until they decided to vote out a man. I guess this is close enough. This is as good as we're going to get. I was exercising some feminist action, but this season still six boots or six eliminations in. A man is still not been voted off technically, which is wild.
Yeah, it's pretty insane to have this happen. But yeah, like you said, you weren't gonna be on the podcast for Women's History Month while women were getting voted out left and right. So, finally a man left. And I would say it was a very surprising person to leave just based on how visible he was the first half of this game. I actually had started thinking to myself that maybe Matt was going to win, but that's not the case here. And really excited to have you back. Dylan is not back. He said that you had a contract dispute. I guess would Dylan be in a contract dispute now?
Yep.
Tell your friends and everyone so we can get Dylan back on the show. Pay him what he's worth here.
Yeah, no, all three of us will probably be back for the finale and on the same podcast. That's kind of what we're shooting for.
Yeah, well, honestly, this is why we have 3 hosts, so that the show can go on when one of us can't make it. I don't know how many people also listen to the Have Not Room as well as this, but there was like a whole month that I was gone from that show dealing with personal stuff, and Ben and Chad were able to carry. So, happy to keep doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, there wasn't a ton of bulk this episode just because it kind of ended with the MetaQuit or Medevac, however you want to put it.
How do you want to put it, Ben? What's the official on the Survivor Wiki? I think it's a quit. I think personally they weren't going to pull him out. I think it was a pain thing, and I think it probably sucked and it wasn't fun and he was in a lot of pain. But I don't think it was like he was going to have like a, potentially life-threatening situation from the pain.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I personally subscribe to the idea that like quits are basically like psychological medevacs. Like at least like 90% of the time, I would say.
That's fair.
And but yeah, generally like the distinction is drawn where like either production / the medical team decides you have to leave the game, or you decide you have to leave the game, right? It's usually one or the other.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear. And in here, it definitely seemed like Matthew was the one who decided he was going to leave the game, probably on the strong recommendation of the medical team of you should probably leave, but you could technically say if you really wanted to, is kind of the vibe I got. And I also I think that we also like classify like meta quits, like the Dana style meta quits, as like people who quit the game who Jeff doesn't immediately trash on and like want to remove from the history of the show. And that clearly was the case here. I think that Jeff is a big Matthew fan and was sad to see him go, and was like he was treating him more of like a medical evacuation or like a fallen soldier kind of a guy, as opposed to like a normal quit, quote unquote.
And I very much doubt Austin from Pearl Islands watches Survivor anymore. But if he is, he has to be punching the air right now, because this is not the same Jeff that treated him with such ire back in the Pearl Islands.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that as a society and as dumb humans, we have a tendency to only acknowledge injuries or ailments that we can see with our eyes, because the concept of things existing that are outside of our immediate like vision is difficult to grasp. So the two medical situations that occurred this season so far were very like obvious to the eye, right? You had Bruce like basically splitting his skull open, and you had Matthew dislocating his shoulder and being in a sling for 2 weeks. So like it's very obvious that they're very hurt. Whereas somebody like Austin, who had a lot of like internal injuries or internal ailments.
Didn't he have like a staph infection or
Yeah,
something?
there was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things going on. Well,
On
yeah,
top
yeah,
of
I guess
no clothes.
a staph infection is visual, but it's like
right.
easy to see. But like,
Yeah.
I think he had a lot of like internal like stuff going in his system. And also probably hypothermia from selling all of his clothes, which obviously his own stupidity, but still, it wasn't like Purple Kelly situation where he was forced to get hypothermia. It was his own decision. Yeah, like those things are a lot harder to kind of wrap your mind around of like, oh, this person is like seriously ill or injured. So I think that's also playing a factor, and also probably is a reason why Jeff empathizes with certain people over others.
No, definitely. I mean, the shot of him falling from the cliff is like, I have a hard time watching it, even though like I know he's like fine, obviously medevac, but he's on Twitter. He seems like he's fine. And he doesn't get like horribly injured in the moment, just like a long-term injury. But like I can barely watch it when they replay it every episode.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so just horrible. I mean, Bruce's injury was also really horrible because they decided that they needed to get his blood gushing in slow motion out of his head. But yeah, I think the show maybe felt a little bit responsible by like being like, oh yeah, we're gonna get a drone shot of you climbing this cliff, and then he fell, and everyone was probably like, huh, she probably shouldn't let him do that. Probably should have like been looking out for him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of draws like the question of where is the point where production should step in when players are doing potentially stupid or dangerous things? Because like you also, as production, expect to a certain degree that as like adults that these people are able to like kind of know what their limits are, and you have like people like Ozzy who are able to basically like barefoot climb directly up a tree and like get coconuts and then come back down and be perfectly fine. So it's hard to like really know when to like step in and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. That seems a little over the line in terms of danger. We have liability waivers, but still, we don't want to have to deal with the consequences of being like, yeah, some guy died on our show.
I mean, hey, the French version of Survivor had to shut their show down for a few years. I don't think Survivor wants to deal with that.
Yeah, it's just like even from like a soulless corporate perspective, it's real fucking bad if somebody dies on Survivor.
Yeah, I don't think they would end it, but they would temporarily put it on hiatus, and then make a huge deal about it coming back in a couple of years.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that maybe like that'll kind of be a bit of a wake up call for them to be a little bit more careful in the future and like maybe step in and be like, hey, maybe don't climb up a rock face like that when there's not a really good landing zone.
There was a little bit of a puddle that he
it was like
landed in. Are those called tide pools?
Yeah,
there's a little tide pool.
Yeah, probably landed on top of a crab as well.
Oh man, what a bad situation this was. Not only for Matthew and for the show, but like he was a huge character, a driving force, someone who was planning fake idols and making his worm-eating castmates find them, and he was a fun presence.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting point too in terms of like a lot of the editing decisions so far. It feels like they're spending a lot of time on things that just like demonstrably don't pay off. Where you
Yeah.
have multiple things where like Sarah gets an advantage and then finds this fake idol that Carolyn hides. She gets voted out, doesn't play either, not really, addressed at all outside of her final words. Then we have this situation where we get this whole scene of Matthew being shown as this huge, like, strategic mastermind across multiple episodes, finds an idol, tricks Jamie into finding a fake idol, and ultimately, unless he off-screen hand that idol over to somebody, is not going to matter at all. Like, it's just a complete waste of the television screen. We've seen now in the last 2 episodes, since Carson joined that tribe, this like bond between Matthew and Carson, whereas I don't think we've even heard Lauren speak in the last 4 episodes.
Lauren and Heidi have been getting the shaft in this edit, and I don't understand it.
So like, why do we need 3 scenes of Matthew and Carson bonding when Matthew is going to get meta-quitted from the game here and not even make the merge? It's like a lot of very peculiar storytelling decisions.
It's really weird. And I wanted to ask you about that. Do you think there's a chance that the built up the Matt and Carson relationship to give us a reveal in the future? What are your thoughts on that?
They have done this they in the new era, especially. They have been doing this kind of genius Extreme Ways style editing, where they like kind of set something up and then do a flashback. So like I do think it's on the table, especially with the way that they let him leave, where it was basically like off screen, and maybe that was to like save him the like shame of having to quit on screen or whatever they want to do. But I definitely think it's on the table that he like willed his idol to Carson. That has been something that people have been given the option to do in the past. It's not something that people often do. A lot of people are just like, no, I don't give a shit about any of these people. Let me have my memorabilia.
That is always so crazy to me. I don't know how you feel about it, but the 2 times, obviously, One World and Brain versus Brown versus Beauty 2. I can't remember the guy in Brain versus Brown versus Beauty. Lance? What was that guy's name? Aubrey's ally. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Neil. Michelle voted his ass out of the jury. Neil. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't matter. Michelle voted his ass off the jury anyway, so like it really did not matter. But I was surprised in both cases that they didn't will it to their number 1 ally. So I hope Matt actually did, and I'll be interested to see that.
Yeah. I mean, would you? I guess.
Oh yeah. I don't care about a souvenir. I'll go on Etsy and buy a replica like after the season's over. Like if I can help someone else and still have like a little bit of even, so selfishly have an impact on the game still a little bit. I would much rather try to help someone else win $1 million if there's no way I can.
Yeah, I think I probably would as well. And also, like, you never know when the production's going to call you up and be like, hey, Ghost Island 2 is coming up. We're going to need that. We're going to need that souvenir back.
Exactly. Like they might take it and like, I don't even know if you get to keep them anymore. I think there's like a weird like gray area now. So like, yeah, man, I do think it's so funny. Dylan and I talked about them doing a Ghost Island 2 last episode. They're definitely going to do that at some point.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have a lot of issues with Ghost Island, but like surprisingly, the twist was like one of the less bad parts of the season.
The one time in history that everyone's like, it's actually a pretty cool theme and twist and idea for the season.
Yeah. I mean, look, at least there was a themed way of doing what they've been doing for the last like 10 years at this point. Like it actually had some flavor to it instead of just like, oh, go on this trip, as they've been doing this season. Go on this trip, get to know each other. But actually, let's edit out the part where they get to know each other and just show you the part where they,
Yeah,
I at least liked it from this episode where the twist was them actually getting to know each other, and we got to see we had to see it finally instead of the last 3 times they don't know where they edited it out.
I think, despite there not being a tribal council, and medevacs/quits are always a little disappointing.
Mhm.
I do think this was one of the better episodes of the season because of stuff like this. The twist was they just got to have lunch and bro down for 2 of them, and Carolyn got to talk shit, which very fun. This is where Survivor's at its best, when it's the cast members interacting.
No, fantastic scene. Like it was like, you know, across the board we have Danny and Brandon just just completely ignoring Carolyn's existence the entire time, and she's just being like, "Hello."
It was ridiculous.
Excuse
I
me?
was trying to find, like, they shook hands in front of her. They did like was that like Rocky, where they clasp hands.
Yeah,
Where
class arms, yeah.
bad form by the camera person not to get her behind that. It was like a shot from the side, but I wanted to use that for the thumbnail.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Danny was playing one of the better games up until this point, just because of his positioning on his tribe. Obviously, like having an idol that nobody knows about, like the move he pulled. Like he basically did what Matthew did to Jamie to Matt, and Matt is, in my opinion, a much more adept player than Jamie. So that's like a bigger thing to have pulled off. No, but yeah, this was a real bad look for him.
Yeah, man, this is insane. But sometimes you just meet a fellow bro and you can't help it. You just have to bro down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely the 2 broiest guys in the season. So like,
yeah, they're the 2 like burliest, like, bro. Yeah, it's hilarious. And
the
you
former
knew the
NFL
second,
player and the firefighter. Like,
yeah,
come on.
you knew the second that they were gonna like hang out, that they were gonna click, and lo and behold, I mean, it's kind of, we saw similar. Jonathan and Mike, for firefighter and big buff guy, they broke down similarly hard a couple seasons ago. So should have been no surprise. But we're both huge nerds. But I'd say we're bros too. But we're nerds first and foremost. So we know a lot of other Survivor nerds and stuff. And this is not a popular segment with the people that we're friends with in the wider Survivor community.
Yeah. I would like to say, because we did have a nerd segment as well on the show. That also to me was very cringy.
Yeah, that was nerd love.
Yeah. Well, that to me, I don't know if you got the same feeling, but it felt like Carson was putting it on, and he didn't really like know half the things he was saying, and he was just trying to like fit in. Maybe that's just a bad read.
What's so funny about that was when he got asked, it felt very forced. You're totally right. But when he got asked what his favorite Pokemon type was, I was like, Carson strikes me as a ghost type Pokemon guy. And then he tweeted that he is a ghost type Pokemon. That's his favorite. And I was like, fucking knew this. Got this guy dead to rights.
Yeah. I mean, the vibe I got from Carson in that conversation, and it was probably just the way that it was edited was weird, but it's like when like I'm in a conversation, people are talking about like basketball, and it's like I like tangentially know a little bit about basketball, but I don't really follow it super closely. It's like one of the like sports I don't really watch much, and so it's like, oh yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about, and I'll like pretend to like nod along and be like, yeah, I understand this conversation. I'm a part of this,
Yeah. Well, Ben, I gotta ask, what's your favorite Pokemon type?
Probably water, but I was never a huge Pokemon like nerd. I grew up around a lot of Pokemon nerds, so that's another thing.
Yeah.
Pokemon was like one of those things where it's like I know a Pokemon, but I'm not like like the level 10 Pokemon nerd. I'm like a level like 6 or 7.
Mhm.
So when I'm around level 10 Pokemon nerds, I kind of have to put it on a bit.
Right. Yeah, mine's grass, but also followed by ghost. So
Hmm.
yeah, I am definitely like a level 10 Pokemon nerd.
Yeah.
Buy all the games the day they come out, even though they haven't really changed or necessarily improved very much
Yeah.
in a long time. But yeah, I think Carson's doing really well for himself, and he I don't know if he's going to win, but he certainly has shown the ability to kind of adapt with like all kinds of different personalities so far, and I've been extremely impressed with his game.
Yeah, no, I mean he's definitely being shown as like one of the more well-rounded players, and it's gonna be interesting to see kind of where he goes from here because it seemed like he invested so much into Matthew, and now Matthew is gone. But we're coming into a merge, or at least like the modern like fake merge thing, and he does theoretically still have Yang Yang and Carolyn if they want to like hook back up again. Uh, and it seemed like by the end of the episode that Yang Yang and Carolyn were back on the same page, and Josh was probably going to get voted out if that went to a tribal council. But who knows?
I think that was I think that was right. I think that's where it was gonna
Yeah,
go. They had a little bit of turbulence
yeah.
in their relationship, but ultimately, like I think they both wanted to play together and were willing to kind of overlook, that little kerfuffle.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are. Like, do you think? I feel like this season's very top heavy in its personalities, and losing Matthew, like, I don't really see. Like, I guess that maybe opens up a little bit more for people that have been kind of under the radar or like not focused enough. Like as we mentioned before, people like Heidi and Lauren. Um,
Yeah, I would hope. God, when has Lauren had a confessional? Like in the premiere? Is that
yeah,
it? Oh my god,
she banked her extra vote and like hasn't had to do anything since.
that's crazy to me. That's really crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you're right though. It is top heavy with Carolyn and Jam and um Josh has come on a little bit, and that kind of like he was someone who I was worried was going to get purpled, but his backstory is really you know traumatic. Honestly,
Yeah.
having stomach cancer from immunosuppressants, like that's horrifying. And as someone who's on immunosuppressants, also a worry. So that was not pleasant to watch that be, explored. But obviously, he's doing great. And I mean, he's a surgeon and he's ripped, and he keeps like surviving all these times where it looks like he's done, and then he gets swapped, gets an idol, gets saved by a medevac. Like he's doing good, but yeah, I would love to see more Heidi. I would love to see more Lauren, and then I'd like to see more Cade outside of I'm a giant nerd.
Yep.
That's all they want to paint him with, which I feel like hopefully he has a little bit more to show.
Yeah, all I know about Kane is like he's like a he's a huge nerd and he doesn't know the lyrics to his own national anthem.
Right? Yeah. I want to, Kane. If you're watching this, let's play D&D sometime. Like, come, like online. We'll have a great time. You'd be welcomed here with us.
Yeah, so I guess what I think there's not that much else because like uh, I guess I haven't really had an opportunity because I haven't been around on the podcast, but
Yeah. What do
I
you
do
want to
want to like,
discuss?
huh?
Yeah. What do you want to discuss?
I want to discuss Carolyn.
Okay. That's
I feel like
fine.
we haven't talked enough about her. Like we mentioned the island visit for this episode, but like
I don't. We could be here 10 hours straight, and I don't think we could talk enough about Carolyn. To be honest.
yeah, I mean look, I'm not like fully bought into this season, but I am fully bought into Carolyn.
She's a
Uh
star,
yeah, like
undoubtedly. I love her. I
yeah.
don't want her to ever get voted off. Quite frankly, if she won, I would be extremely happy.
Did you this would shoot up probably to like a top 10 or 15 season, no matter how it plays out, if she's the winner, in my opinion. Just
Yeah,
like
man.
automatically. That's the floor, right?
When she got her the first confessional and it was like edited weird and it had like the producer, which we also had a producer cut into one of Franny's confessionals in this episode. Very big brother. Like we don't see that in Survivor really ever. But I was like, oh boy, she's almost certainly the first boot, and she's proven me completely wrong. She's a little out there, but I mean, it's never really showing like she's ever wrong about any of her reads or anything. She's just like a quirky personality.
Yeah, she's just like very like she just has like kind of a kooky vibe to her, and so people don't like with Brandon and Danny, just don't take her seriously as a player or as a threat. It seemed like they just immediately wrote her off as like, oh, she'll probably be the next one voted out of those three. So like we don't, it's not really worth it for us to invest into getting to know her because she's probably not going to be here tomorrow. But she's like pretty demonstrably one of the best players on the season, right?
Oh, she's a good player. Like, I think the only like thing where people like don't want to admit is because she's like quirky, and they're just like, no, she can't. She's so, I don't want to say weird. Like I'm fucking weird. So like if I'm saying weird, it's not like meant like in a bad way. Like we're all weird, but like, I spend most of my time making podcasts for like 20 people to watch. So infinitely more weird than Carolyn. But I think people like see her and judge her, like you said, very like, oh, she's a non-entity in this game, but she's a good player. And Jam Jam kind of took her for granted, which I thought was really messed up because, like, why would you tell her, like, oh, the decoy's on you, Carolyn? It's like, wasn't she your main ally, Jam Jam? Well, what is happening here? So I'm looking forward to her dismantling the bros.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm just trying to like visualize how this is gonna go starting from next week. I have no idea, but like I think there's definitely like kind of room for like the Jam Jam Carolyn pair to kind of Malcolm and Denise it through this, the second half of the season, and like I don't know, man. I feel like we've been kind of bamboozled the last like in the modern era because
Yes.
so much of the way that the winners have been edited have been like very very quiet, at least strategically, for the first like 2/3 of the game, and they kind of just like pop up in the end game and like make a few good moves and then like kind of win a lot of times by default, and that really wouldn't jive with kind of the story that we're getting from Carolyn. But if Carolyn were to have been the winner of the season, I don't really think you could edit her that way.
Right. So either Carolyn's winning or Heidi's winning is what we're saying here.
Yeah, or Lauren.
Or Lauren. Yeah.
Yeah. Lauren's gonna make a killer move with her extra vote at the final 6.
Mm-hmm. and win. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll get more of Lauren, but just from the way that everyone involved with Survivor, from Jeff to like former players, have hyped up this season, I can't imagine the same kind of like modern thing is going to happen. I think it's going to be a more dynamic winner. And you know me, I love Marianne. She's one of my favorite winners. But like, she didn't come on till the very end, and same with Erica. And I still don't know how Gabler won, but yeah, like I think we're gonna get a more dynamic and out in front winner, almost similar to like if Jesse had won last season.
Yeah, I hope so, because I think that like if we don't, the show probably has to like really look inward on itself as to like whether they've made too many changes to the point where the show just can't be won interestingly anymore.
Right. And that would be a real problem because like, I just, I don't want to be one of those people who's like, Australian Survivor's better because I know a lot of the seasons of Australian or some of the seasons of Australian Survivor are quite boring, but this season of Survivor, uh, I don't want to spoil anything, but there was a very dynamic player leading the charge on that, and I would
Mhm.
like to get back to like having players like that on this season.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm like loosely familiar. Like I didn't watch the Australian Survivor season, but I like kind of like loosely followed it here and there. So I am familiar with the player that you're talking about.
Yeah,
But from
he
my
might be my
understanding,
new favorite player just as a whole character. He
yeah.
was very fun.
Well, from my understanding, he was more kind of like Jesse-esque though, right? And kind of had the same
Yeah, yeah. He
rise and downfall.
he did not. Spoilers for Australian Survivor. Everyone jump ahead 30 seconds. He did not win. He fell at the last moment.
Yeah.
Lost the last immunity challenge, but he constantly like every situation he went in at the disadvantage is the very obvious we need to get rid of him, and every time up until the very last moment where it just took like everyone voting for him because he was going to win, he was able to flip the situation to his advantage every single time. Incredibly impressive, and not something we've really seen in this new era of Survivor at all. And I don't know if it's like Survivor's basically like Russian roulette these days. Like, look at poor Maddie, first boot, but she didn't necessarily do that much wrong. She didn't play perfectly, and she targeted someone she knew had an idol, but like she did also get like everyone to either vote with her or abstain from voting
Yeah.
altogether. Um, and she went out first, and it's kind of like you see things like that, and you're like, okay, how do you play Survivor these days?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I do think that because of the amount of random elements that have been thrown into the game that are either like unpredictable or like unknowable even, you really just have to play a lot safer if you want to like get further in the game more consistently. And people who are playing or trying to play more dominant games that try to like control every variable, it just fundamentally doesn't work anymore because you can't control every variable when you don't even know that like certain variables could even exist.
Yeah, that brings up a great point that I wanted to ask you about since you haven't been on the show in a couple weeks. These new fake idols,
Yeah,
I hate them. I
I,
like
I,
the
I,
idea
yeah.
of I like the idea of players making fake idols. I think it's fun. I hate that production is giving you production level fake idols that mirror the real idols of other tribes, and you're allowed to use the paper. I have always said, I don't know if I've said it on here, but like I've always held that like you should not be able to try to pass off a fake idol with the parchment.
Hmm.
I think that adds a level of like, because if you're a player, how can you believe, oh, okay, the only way I know this is an idol is if I see the paper. But if you're giving me a fake idol with the paper, what am I supposed to do? And now this is
Yeah.
added another level where like the idols are so good and they're wrapped in the original idol paper. Like, how is Matt supposed to know that he has a fake idol? How's that fair? He didn't, sign up to play, Survivor against production, but here he is, you know.
Yeah, or Jamie, same idea. Like literally the exact
Jamie,
same.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I mean,
we can laugh all we want about Jamie being kind of a clueless player, and like she gets kind of a segment in this episode where she's like kind of
right.
played off as clueless, but like, how is she supposed to know that the idol that Matthew tricked her into finding was fake? There's literally no way to know.
And I know Matthew at least made the idol, but Survivor has made like a conscious choice to make their idols look like shit.
Yeah,
Like for the last like 15 seasons, or I think since what was it, since Second Chance, they said that they wanted the idols to all look different so that you could potentially make fake idols. And ever since then, it's just been like, okay, we're gonna make them look more and more homemade, if you will. And we're to the point now where they're like, we're just gonna make it for you.
yeah, and we're gonna, like back in like the teen seasons where like making fake idols kind of blew up as a strategy. People had to like scavenge way more. Like it took a lot more effort to scavenge for like legitimate fake idol knickknacks, as we saw with Josh this episode. If you're bad at it, then it's very easy to tell.
Yeah, and Ben, we've both seen Bob Crowley's fake idol. It looks good, even after it got burned in the fire. It looks good.
Yeah, no, it like very much looked legit, and like there's like a level of craftsmanship to it, where if you're good enough at tricking somebody with the tools that are available to you, you have a Bob Crowley situation. And if you're not, you have an Aussie with the fucking stick, or you have a Josh in this episode basically
Yao Man's coconut with iron on it.
Yeah.
So like, good.
There's like back in the day, it was a lot harder to pass off a legitimate or a fake idol as legitimate, and it was a lot easier if you were being like bamboozled to like know when you were being bamboozled, or at least like be able to have some kind of a smell test. And when you're like basically having a carbon copy of a real idol from the other tribe as this like fake idol that like magically also is the same exact thing but doesn't have the power blessed by production. It's like, okay, what do we do here? Like
Jeff Probst actually blesses each idol before they're put into the game.
With a well water,
Yeah, that is like the difference of like regular water versus holy waters. Jeff prays over them.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I guess the logic would be for Matthew, like, the idol should be in the cage, and if I'm finding something that's not in the cage, that shouldn't be an idol. But like,
right,
the idol, the thing in the cage could be anything. It could be like a knowledge is power thing. It could be a steal a vote. There's like 14 different advantages that have been cycled through play in the last 20 seasons that it could theoretically be other than just a normal idol.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it, Ben.
Yeah, I guess at the very least, despite all of these trips that we've had to the 44 version of Shipwreck Island, the only advantage that survived until the merge, I think, is Lauren's extra vote, right?
Yes.
So yeah, we're coming in with a bunch of people have fake idols that they think are real, but I think there's only Danny's idol, Carolyn's idol, and the Lauren's extra vote as actual real idols and advantages right now.
Then Brandon presumably held on to the fake idol.
Yes,
because we haven't seen it again. Jamie has the fake idol. Matt has a fake idol. No one else has any advantages, which is good.
And Jamie and Carson both have expired real idols that they can then
be fake
idols if they wanted to.
Yep, that's very fair, very true. I think it'll be interesting to see if Carolyn and Jam Jam like blow up their spots and be like, "Oh, Josh played a idol," and then Jamie's gonna be like, "Oh, they know about my fake idol, but they don't know about my real idol, which is also a fake idol." But Jamie doesn't know that. It'll be very interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, I don't like it because like unless they go into season 45 and Jeff is like, okay, production will not be providing fake idols, no one will ever be able to trust if they find an idol or not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was like positive on the birdcage idea at first, just because the like idea of having to like find the idol in the open and then try to hide that you found the idol in the open in some way and like do some kind of redirect like a sneaky way, like that is interesting. But it's interesting when you don't have like all of the pieces handed to you.
Right.
And you have like situations like I think Carolyn did it in an interesting way with the X, in which like she kind of uh, connected it to the fake idol, and like that could have been something that a smart person would see through, in my opinion, just because of how like kind of ludicrous it came off, but it worked. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I just I think it sets a bad precedent for the future because like we're gonna be getting these scenes in the future where someone's gonna find an idol and be like, "Wow, I really hope it's real." Like, can't
Mhm.
wait to find out if this is real or not when I go to play it.
Yeah, and then like you also don't have the option, like the idle nullifier was one thing, whereas like something that somebody's going to have like floating in the back of their head, like, oh, there's like a 2% chance my idol gets nullified, uh, but like you really can't. And I think I saw Michelle and Tyson on like Tyson's show talking about this, or like having an idol makes you change the way that you play Survivor fundamentally. But now you can't even do that. So it takes away that like facet of the game where you can kind of play more aggressively or play like slightly differently based off of that information. Uh, and people will be potentially playing theoretically correct based off of the information they have about themselves, and then get screwed because they don't have a real idol and they're trying to make a play with it in some way.
Right. I mean, it definitely would. Like, it gives you a lot of like slack. I mean, it's a get out of jail free card.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not getting voted off, you can at least like guarantee you're not getting voted off going into any tribal council with it. So you
Yeah.
get bad vibes. You can be like, whatever. I don't know for sure if they're voting for me, but I feel like they might be. So I'm just gonna play my idol and not worry.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know.
we talk about Jesse. Like Jesse last season is a good example of this. Him having two idols, and one of them, nobody knowing about that idol, allowed him to play very aggressively in the back half of that merge, to the point where he was like, "Yeah, I'm the threat. I'm going to win the game. Like, do
Right.
something about it." And they couldn't do something about it because he had the idols. But like, he was able to, up until the point where he needed the idols, play very, face forward and aggressive. If he didn't have guaranteed real idols, he couldn't have played like that and got away with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just hope that they kind of take a step back in season 45. And I know in my heart they will not be
Mhm.
taking even a little bit of a shuffle back at any point because I've listened to some of Jeff's podcasts from this, what is it, like On Fire or whatever, with Jeff Probst. And Jeff loves this shit. And it's really disheartening.
Yeah, no, I don't get it. I feel like he's literally the only one who likes it. It's
No, he has
confusing.
two like producers on with him that are like complete yes men.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, you're right, Jeff. This is so great. It's so fun. It's so well thought out. It's like, no, it's not. This is thought out very poorly.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't even gotten rid of the shot in the dark, which in my opinion is like just such an easy thing to do. Just get rid of it. It serves no purpose. It's like 90% of the time you forget that it exists, and through 3.5 seasons, it has yet to pay off. So like, what are we
Yeah,
doing?
and only one time someone even got like your safe out of it and they didn't need it. So it's like, okay, I liked the idea in theory. And if it sticks around, like I won't be mad, but like, yeah, it is pointless.
No, I'm just saying, if they went 4 seasons with idols never paying off, they would never have stuck around, right? Like they would have scrapped the idea and been like, okay, this doesn't make sense, right? Or they would have iterated on it somehow, which they did
Yeah, which
iterate
they
on
did.
idols.
Yeah.
Um,
The original idol
and
paid off.
yeah,
The Gary playing his immunity, like basically just an immunity necklace
yeah,
idol, which I wouldn't hate seeing that come back either, like as an alternative to some of these twists. Like you have an idol that's just an immunity necklace. But yeah, they realized it didn't work with 12 and 13, and then 14 they changed it to the present, and then it worked that season.
hmm Yeah, no, I'm just saying if you do a twist that theoretically could work every single vote and hasn't worked in 3.5 seasons, like
Mm,
it's a bad twist.
yeah,
Nothing I could say. Like it's not like we've seen enough. We have enough data, right? It's not like
yeah,
I'm making a real quick observation based off of very little data. We have enough data to say that
yeah.
it's a bad twist.
It's so funny too because like you have stuff like the Medallion of Power, which is like so obviously like scuffed that they like trashed it in the same season that it was being used, and then they had like the one season twist in Game Changers where there were no revotes, and they're like, this kind of dumb, like and pointless. So it's like they can do it. They are capable of like being like, this is dumb. We don't need this, but they would just refuse to do it with some of these things. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, like, even like a lot of the other, secondary twists that they've put in, like we've had multiple, like the knowledge's power basically became a meme where it's like this completely OP power that keeps on like failing because everyone misplays it. We had this like new legacy power that Sarah got that's completely fucking worthless if you're not like running the game, which is like, why would you put a power into the game that's only good if you're already in a crushing position? It's like,
Yeah, I don't know.
how does that make sense?
Yeah, they took it one out of the BB playbook there.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do we make this twist advantage the majority alliance for no
Yeah.
reason?
It's like the whatever Sarah's advantage is called. I can't remember
Inheritance advantage.
inheritance. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out. I was like, it wasn't legacy, obviously, but like inheritance.
right.
Yeah, it's literally worthless if you're on the bottom, and unless you like, I guess you can find an idol, play the idol to save yourself, and then inherit your own idol. Can you do that? Like,
Yeah, play an idol for someone else and inherit the
no, you
idol.
can't. You can't
both.
inherit the same. The way that it worked, like, because I read the rules online after, because everyone was like trashing on Sarah for not using it when it was totally worthless, and like,
Yeah, right. Because she would have used it last episode if she could have.
it wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered. The way that it works is like you play it when you vote, and any idols or advantages that are played that tribal council, you get after the tribal council is already over.
Oh
the
my
next
fucking
time.
god!
So like it's literally worthless. It's
Yeah.
like if you're in a crushing position, you can basically use it to like smother out the minority alliance. And if you're in the minority alliance, it's totally worthless. It's like, what is the point of it?
Yeah, I guess the only thing, like you said, would be you can turn your one idol into two idols.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But then why don't you just give somebody an idol? That's way more useful.
Yeah, I don't know.
Even a steal a vote, like a steal a vote or extra vote, just even more useful. Like the extra vote on its own is like relatively worthless, but it's more useful than this inheritance thing.
Yeah. I don't know. They tried it; it didn't work. Hopefully, it won't come back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, they've tried knowledge power so many times. I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah.
They're gonna learn.
Yeah, they even did legacy advantage a few times in a row. So,
I mean, at least the legacy advantage in Game Changers had some level of payoff to it.
yeah, it did.
So,
unfortunately,
yeah.
Oh man. Well, anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I'm just at this point, I'm all in on a Carolyn win, and I hope that happens. And if it does, I will be very happy.
Yes, me too. I'm losing my voice after a week of podcasts and stuff, so I think this is a good spot to end it. Do you want to promote anything? Tell people where to find you online?
I mean, you can follow me on social media at Ben Sharon, but I have not used social media barely at all. I keep on saying that I want to try and use like Twitter more or whatever, but like I hate Twitter now. It's so awful. It's like horrific platform that like Elon Musk destroyed.
Yep, it's sad. I was actually thinking about it. It's like, do I just leave it? Like, do I just leave Twitter? But until I do, you can follow me at the fake BMAR. It's BMARR. Channel is on Twitter at WG Everything, Instagram Wicked Everything, Twitch at twitch.tv/Wicked Everything. Check out our other podcasts. We have Last of Us podcast, and then we also have a sports channel, which is Wicked Good Sports. Obviously, we cover all kinds of sports topics. So, other than that, we will see you in the next one.